1965, Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas wrote the decision. There is a constitutional right to privacy.
The New York Times versus the United States, 1971. President Nixon may not stop the New York Times from printing the Pentagon Papers.
Ballard versus United States, 1946. No state jury system may discriminate on the basis of sex.
Furman versus Georgia, 1972. The death penalty is cruel and unusual punishment. He's obsolete.
My God, this is 1980.
He's irrelevant. His ideas are dying.
His ideas are dead.
He was never a true justice.
Never a scholar.
Always going off somewhere to climb a mountain.
Climb. I was just there. The Himalayas, just now.
That was a dream. 30 years ago. Remember?
Remember.
Jasper Crisbody. Jasper. Cleaning up the towns, making Yakima safe for my sons.
Bastard.
Closed down South Front Street, the bootleggers. The women.
Hypocrite.
Young man, your father was our minister. You help me now and I'll give you $1 an hour.
No!
You spent your life saying no. A loner. Contrary. Always dissenting.
Always wanting to get away from the court.
My life was the court. 36 years on the court.
You wasted your time wandering all over the world.
What were you trying to prove?
This is a nation of laws.
Not of men.
But the law must be about life. About the people and their lives. How can you sit in judgment on them if you haven't lived? If you haven't taken these journeys? My life wasn't just one place. One case. Damn it! Multitudes. All things are connected.
And now you're dying.
Yes, I'm dying. But that's not the last thing I'm going to do. Planned my own funeral, and it's going to shake up that damn establishment. They're going to bury me in Arlington. Got the spot all picked out. Not far from Jack Kennedy, and only 20 feet from Oliver Wendell Holmes. And there I'll be among all those generals and secretaries of defense. And you know what my tombstone is going to say? William O. Douglas, Private, United States Army. And for the funeral, I'll have the U.S. Army Chorus sing, "Shall we gather at the river?" Right? And just when they're thinking that at the end, old Bill Douglas got soft, I'm going to have that Army Chorus hit them with a song by Woody Guthrie. "This land is your land." By God, I just wish John Foster Dulles could be there. The blood would drain right out of that Episcopalian face. Tell those doctors, I've decided not to die. They're probably all Republicans. Oh, I gotta admit it, not every Republican is like John Foster Dulles. Some of the bastards actually have a sense of humor. Did you ever hear what Bob Dole called our last 3 presidents? Carter, Ford, and Nixon? See no evil, hear no evil, and evil. Well, and a lot of these Democrats today, they're no bargain either. A bunch of weather vanes. Pisses me off. Some of those fellows think they're going to be more conservative than a Republican. Can't be done. Like trying to be more ugly than a spider. You got to face the fact, Republicans and spiders have conservative and ugly all blocked up. Yeah. I'm feeling better. Damn doctors won't let me do anything. Everything's dangerous. Well, shit, of course it is. Life is dangerous if you live it. And I've decided to live. Right up to the bicentennials. The real ones, not that thing that Gerald Ford had in '76 for the revolution. Any fool country can have a revolution, but what this nation obtained was our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. They give life and protection to the minorities. And by that, I mean all of us. Every man and woman is a minority of one. And he and she, if it comes to that, must have the right to stand up to the full and awesome majesty of this government and say, unafraid, here is this small, humble area that is my life, and it is mine. So you, United States of America, get off my back.
You could have been president.
That's right.
You wanted it.
I wanted this. And they made me hang it up. But I made them sweat 36 years before I did it. Retire. Be safe. Dangerous. Oh, they've been trying to take this off of me as soon as I put it on. Especially after I made that awful mistake back in 1951. Said we ought to recognize China.
You mean Red China?
Well, whatever you call them, and whatever you think of their government, acting like 1 billion people aren't there is a fantasy. And fantasy is a mighty dangerous way to run your foreign policy. People like Richard Nixon said my suggestion was shocking. They stood up in Congress and said I ought to be impeached. The John Birch Society.
William O. Douglas is the only known communist in Yakima County.
20 years later, I thought of that, watching those pictures of Nixon drinking champagne with Chairman Mao. History, Mr. Dooley said, history always vindicates the Democrats, but never in their lifetime. They see the truth first, but the trouble is, nothing is ever officially true till a Republican sees it.
We're going to get Douglas off the court.
Things got hot again in the 70s. Nixon was trying to get G. Harold Carswell on the Supreme Court, so he got a congressman, Gerald Ford, to threaten the Senate.
If you don't confirm Carswell, we'll impeach Douglas.
On what grounds? Get this. Ford stands up in the House and says,
An impeachable offense is whatever the majority of the House of Representatives considers it to be at a given moment in history.
I know what was one of those impeachable offenses, that I've been married 4 times.
Your children never really had a father.
Well, they had more than I had. My father went and died on me. And I did all right. Alone, didn't I?
Did you?
Oh, Christ almighty. You can't be everything. You have to choose.
Douglas is the kind of liberal that loves humanity in general, but hates people in particular.
You can't be everything. At least I couldn't. 4 wives. Mildred, Mercy, Joan, Kathy. My children.
A failure.
What do you know about somebody else's marriage? What? Hell, maybe you're right.
A dirty old man.
Yeah, well, I never had the chance to be a dirty young man.
A smut peddler.
Another of Douglas's impeachable offenses is that he is involved with pornographic publications.
I don't know why it is, but Republicans are absolutely obsessed with pornography. Every chance they get, they buy a big stack of it and go off together and read it and watch it and write a big report on why no one else should have a chance to do the same thing. I remember one year at the American Bar Association, I shocked them by telling this story. It was about a judge who was asked to make a speech on ancient Roman law. Now, he knew absolutely nothing about that subject, so he got his law clerks to write him a speech, and he took a plane to the convention. But when he got there, he discovered he'd left the manuscript at home. Now, there was no way he could improvise a speech on ancient Roman law, but the audience was all male, so he just winged it and He gave a talk on sex. And his audience loved it. When he got back to the hotel that night, there was a message to call his wife.
Dear, you left your speech at home. How did everything go?
Oh, everything went perfectly, dear. I gave a talk on how to pilot a small airplane. Well, 2 weeks later, a fellow who'd been in the audience ran into the wife. He told her, "Your husband gave us about the best speech we've ever heard."
Really? That's amazing, because, you know, he's only ever done it twice. The first time, he threw up. And the second time, his hat blew off.
The fact is, I myself cannot stand true hardcore pornography. But I know the First Amendment doesn't allow me to run around censoring it. Thank God. Because then, I'd have to spend all my time reading that stuff. And worst of all, defining it. Back in '71, I tried to explain it in one of my dissents. Whatever obscenity is, it is present only in the minds of some and not in the minds of others. There are as many different definitions of obscenity as there are men. And the definition is as unique to the individual as are his dreams.
Douglas, this is an open and shut case.
I agree. The police illegally open the man's home, and the Supreme Court unconstitutionally shuts him up in prison.
Irvine versus California.
The man's own words convict him. He was taking illegal horse racing bets. The evidence is all here.
And how did it all get there? Because the police, without a search warrant, made a key to the man's home, bored a hole in his roof, put microphones in his home. What is this, a police state?
There is no constitutional right to privacy.
There is, you just don't see it.
Legal precedent, Douglas, and judicial restraint.
But the police must have a search warrant.
Federal police, yes, not state or local police.
But the 14th Amendment. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States.
That clause of the Constitution is a mere ink blot.
Ink blot?
No one knows what its authors intended it to mean.
I know what it says. I can read the English language.
You're reading. You want to move away from original intent. Reinterpret the Bill of Rights.
That's our job.
You liberals, thinking up new rights every morning for breakfast.
Because you reactionaries are forgetting some every night after your brandy.
You think your vision is superior to the Founding Fathers?
What did the Founding Fathers know about electronic surveillance? About computer data banks? Nothing. History moves, and justice has to move with it.
But can't you see how dangerous that is? You want to become a little god, unelected and appointed for life. You want to choose the freedoms we guarantee the people.
And you want to choose the freedoms we deny the people. The court is sending that man, Irvine, to prison. But I dissent. Thou shalt not ration justice.
But he's obviously guilty.
No! Guilt must be proven. The presumption of innocence is all that stands between us and the concentration camp. Hidden microphones, illegal burglaries. This case will come back to haunt us.
I'm absolutely appalled by the transcripts of those White House tapes. Electronic bugging, burglaries.
I'm seeing for the first time Nixon I never knew existed.
Where the hell have you people been in the past quarter century? Now, you're too young to remember this, but Nixon first ran for Congress in 1946. Someone pulled a third-rate burglary in his opponent's campaign office, stole all the campaign literature, hired Hollywood actors to pass out that stolen literature.
The Russians campaigning against Richard Nixon.
Well then, Mr. Nixon certainly has my vote.
4 years later, someone passed out photographs of his new opponent. A woman this time doctored photographs that showed her hugging and kissing a black man.
My heavens! Mr. Nixon certainly has my vote.
I first met Nixon in the 30s. He was a student at Duke University, and I gave a lecture there at the law school. Years later, he came up to me in that patented way of his, and told me how important to him that lecture of mine had been.
Justice Douglas, I just want you to know that your lecture inspired my own political career.
I do believe that hearing that compliment was the most upsetting moment of my life. God, I hate to admit it, but Nixon and I were alike in some ways. Western boys, loners, listening to the trains headed east, climbing up to the top however we could. But now I've lived to be on the court that's saying no to Richard Nixon. No, you will obey the law. Funny how things work out. The man who wanted to impeach me now has to leave Washington. And that's punishment for Nixon. I have to stay. And that's punishment for me. Washington's no place to live. People in this town have no roots. My home's the other Washington. 3,000 miles away in the Pacific Northwest. Every summer, I still ride up and down the trails of the Cascade Mountains. I very nearly do leave the court. Autumn of 1949. Elon Gilbert and I are riding horseback up Crystal Mountain, just across from Mount Rainier. Glorious day. Mountains getting ready for winter. Huckleberries, blood red, willow, and tamarack, all golden. My trail horse, Kendall, is a wonderful, trustworthy old boy. We're heading up a grade of 60 degrees. Something wrong with my saddle. I dismount and tighten the cinch, but after another 100 yards or so, Kendall, for whatever reason I will never know, he rears up and slips me off his back. I land in shale rock. I lose my footing and roll down 30 yards onto a narrow ledge on my stomach. I raise my head and I'm looking in the face of an avalanche. Kendall sliding right down the same 30 yards. Just got time to duck my head, and then 1,600 pounds of solid horseflesh rolls right over me. I'm hearing my own bones break. First, I'm afraid I'm going to die. Then I'm afraid I'm not. Out of my 24 ribs, 23 are broken. In 38 places. My left lung is punctured. It takes over an hour for help to come, but it might as well be a century. They lift me up into a litter. Shoot me, please, God, shoot me. And that's what they do. Only it's morphine they shoot me with. I'm in and out of dreamland for 5 days. Then, mail from all over the country. Get well notes from people like Mercedes Davidson, beautiful woman, wife of a diplomat. People like President Harry S. Truman. And a letter from Harry E. Mock from Marion, Indiana.
I broke 3 ribs once, and I just want to give you a pat on the back.
Dear Mr. Mock, when you have 23 broken ribs, a hiccup is a crisis, a cough a disaster, and a sneeze a calamity. But the most unfriendly act in the world would be a pat on the back.
Douglas, you'll live, but your mountain climbing days are over.
Over? Doc, this summer, I'm going to cross the Himalayan mountains.
The Himalayan? Well, that would be suicide.
But on the mountain trails, I always take the outside edge. It has the best view.
And suppose you fall off?
Yes, suppose I fall off and live.
Go ahead, it's your funeral.
Send wildflowers. My trail partner's waiting for me in the Punjab. A Buddhist mountain man named Rahul.
My toes are frostbitten from last winter.
I have only 1.5 lungs, but we're going to walk 240 miles, 20 days on trails above 13,000 feet, and up, way up, the Trek of the Cripples. And off we go. On the trail, we're joined by a caravan of 11 mules and 5 shamanistic Hindus. The mules are draped with red and yellow tassels and bells. As we walk above the clouds, what a din they make, echoing from the cliffs, blown back by the winds. We go to tiny villages.
Here comes the caravan.
An old blind man sitting on a sunlit wall, beating his cane in time to the bells. Each time we leave a village, we climb up to one of the high mountain passes. And then the man in the caravan look up to the sky and shout, "Ki, ki, so, la, giallo." Let the gods conquer all the evil spirits. You think that's a primitive superstition? But I think it's like shouting, "Praise be to God."
Today we reached the pass of Stengangla.
The highest point on our trek, 17,489 feet. And there above us, mountains, nearly 30,000 feet high. I remember the mountains of my youth. Mount Adams, so tall, so majestic. Yet here it'd be only a foothill. Let's say it all together. Ki, ki, so, la, giallo. Hindus, a Buddhist, and a Scots Presbyterian. Ki, ki, so, la, giallo. Praise be to God. No candles, no stained glass windows, but the most beautiful church in the world. Ki, ki, so, la, giallo. That journey ends in Gilgit, a town just south of the Chinese border. Our last night, the border guards dress in long white pajamas and they dance for us. A dance I will never forget. 2 men to start with, but others keep joining until they're about 20. The sound of feet striking the earth is harder and faster than I thought possible. Primitive man back at the beginning. I can't keep my feet still. I've seen the ice cliffs of Nanga Parbat. I heard my prayer caught by the winds of the glacier, but above and beyond that are the pounding feet of Gilgit. The dance that makes a man want to jump and whirl and stomp and join in a mad exercise of war and combat.
Time's run back.
King David danced before the Lord, and he smote the Philistines. Me, I go back to Washington, D.C. Back to a marriage of 28 years that is dead. Long dead.
Bill, I'm not coming to any more of these things at the White House.
Jesus, Mildred, Roosevelt is easy to talk to.
I never know what to say to him.
Tonight, that man spent 1 solid hour trying to talk to you, and you just sat there like some scared rabbit.
Can't you understand? I don't want to talk to a president.
Then who in God's name do you want to talk to?
With people I know and love. With our old friends back in New Haven. With our children. With you.
Maybe you married the wrong man.
No.
Do you have any idea how many women would die to be here in Washington at this time in history?
Yes, I'm afraid I do.
Mercedes Davidson. She makes me feel alive. Young, gorgeous, cultured woman, the wife of a diplomat, can talk to foreign leaders, to a president. The kind of woman who belongs here in Washington, who was bred to move in the highest circles. I need her.
I'm only standing in your way, Bill. I want to go back to New Haven.
Tommy Corcoran, who always wanted me to run for president. Tommy says the divorce business, that's the end of that dream.
In politics, you don't get a divorce. Yeah, women, but you don't get a divorce.
How many rules can you break before your ticket runs out? I'm sending Truman a letter, putting an end to any talk about the presidency. I'm on the court for life, and that's that. Mildred got the divorce in '53.
15 minutes before a judge and it's all over. Never was. Or one is supposed to believe it never was. 28 years of devotion, loyalty, and hard service. You are a famous and brilliant man. May God help you find it in your heart to forgive yourself as our children and I do. With all good wishes, Mildred.
But our children never forgave me. They didn't understand. Mildred, you never grew. You never seemed to want to. Not in the way I wanted you to. 28 years. A divorce. You can make explanations, excuses. My father would have called it a sin. He would have been right. But how did I stay in New Haven? How can I stay in Washington? I have to keep moving. Lebanon, Israel, Korea, Philippines, Vietnam, Pakistan, Russia. We're a global power, but I don't think we have any real understanding of the rest of the world. I want to see it for myself. I want to talk with farmers and bus drivers and mountain men. I take Mercedes, my new wife, and drive 7,000 miles in 2 months across the Middle East.
From Karachi, Pakistan to Istanbul, Turkey.
All in a two-tone green 56 Chevy station wagon.
On that trip, we lose 5 tires and 6 mufflers.
We have to replace the carburetor, the generator, a fan belt, the battery, 3 sets of points, and a dozen spark plugs.
Then, the gear shift rod comes loose, so we have to drive in second for 300 miles.
And we lose our side view mirror when we're attacked by a homicidal Afghan sheepdog.
Other than that, we've no trouble at all.
Mercy and I divvy up the responsibilities according to our talents. I take photographs.
And I repair the car.
Temperature 110 degrees. Cross the Khyber Pass, through Afghanistan, then reach Tehran. We're honored guests in the palace of the Shah.
We meet the Minister of War, a man in his 60s with a fierce black mustache and piercing eyes.
His name sticks in my mind, Amir Ahmadi.
Mr. Justice, Mrs. Douglas, what an honor you bring up our country.
The honor is ours.
America has so much of everything and we so little, except our problems.
But your country is a great bulwark of freedom. You are a champion of democracy.
That's why we have to help you solve your problems, poverty, disease.
And our troublemakers, the communists. We need your help, resources, techniques.
But our visit here is unofficial.
We travel only as private citizens.
You've seen our car.
Even so, we must have your help.
You have it, General. Unwavering.
Your husband is one of the few foreigners who understand us.
I feel my face burn with pleasure. Lawrence of Arabia, Douglas of Persia. On a hilltop, only 100 miles from the ruins of Babylon, I meet an old man. He tells me what happened in his village 20 years ago.
From that day I saw a cloud of dust across the plain. It was an army troop galloping towards us. A colonel shouting orders. The soldiers dismounted and started shooting. They killed all the women and children. Everyone but the young men. I was shot in the neck. The body of my wife fell on top of me. I was covered in blood when I saw what then happened. The colonel had the young men brought up, one at a time, to where a soldier stood with a sword. At each man in turn, the soldier would swing his sword, and just before it hit the prisoner's neck, he would yell, "Run!" The headless man would take a few steps and would fall. They were betting on how far these headless men could run. Laughing, shouting, encouraging those they bet on.
Did your people ever get revenge on that colonel?
That colonel became a general and is now Minister of War, Amir Ahmadi.
I remember the garden of the Shah. I remember Amir Ahmadi. All his medals, his piercing eyes.
Please, Mr. Douglas, do not think me a braggart. But the truth is, my country, I am what you call a household name.
Yes.
Oh, yes. There are villages today where if a baby cries, the mother says, hush, or Amir Ahmadi will get you.
And he laughed, showing his golden teeth. Finally, back to Washington, D.C. I go to the State Department.
I'm so sorry, Justice Douglas. Secretary Dulles is all booked for this week, but you could speak to Undersecretary Smith.
I've seen this pattern so often. Foreign leaders flattering us, swearing their love for democracy, feeding on our fears of communism.
We're always grateful to hear your opinions.
I know the opinions you hear. High-level experts and businessmen who never leave our embassy except to go to the dictator's palace.
I'm so sorry, Justice Douglas, but Undersecretary Smith has to go to a meeting right now, so you might speak to Assistant Secretary Jones.
Mr. Justice, we have many channels of information.
Channels of garbage. Fat cats telling us exactly what we want to hear. And we fall for it over and over again. Damn it! I fell for it.
Well, that shouldn't come as a surprise. You're hardly an expert.
But when a few of us ask the ordinary people of the world, what do you want from America? Oh, it's a different story. They don't want us policing the world. We ought to be the revolutionaries, not the Soviets, that constipated, third-rate country we're so terrified of. But we ought to aim at the villages of the world. Take 1/10 of what we spend on bombs. Bring their youngsters over here. Show them how a town meeting works. We ought to send our youngsters over to those villages with portable generators and water purification equipment and medicine. This is our chance. Finally, to learn from our experience, to use our strengths, not just our force. To become an example, like a person who can learn from his failures, his stupidities, his vanities, and be better for it.
Mr. Justice, you really ought to look after your own store. We are the experts on foreign policy. You are an expert on the law.
We are the State's Department. You're an expert on law. Remember?
I remember.
Sorry, late, Professor Douglas.
Sit down, Mr. Stewart. Gentlemen, Mueller versus Oregon, 1908. Subject?
The right of Oregon to regulate laundries and factories.
Regulate what?
Whether women could be made to work more than 10 hours a day.
Who argued the case for the women?
Louis Brandeis?
Very good. Why not someone else? Because no one else would take the case. Why not? Because the law, as it existed, was entirely on the side of the factories and against the women. So, what legal citations did Brandeis make before the court?
None, sir.
None.
Because there weren't any. Brandeis just argued the social and economic facts of life.
Exactly. He presented what we now call a Brandeis brief. Reality. Life. Not just legal books. That's the kind of law we're trying to teach you here at Yale. So where is Mr. Brandeis today?
On the Supreme Court, sir.
And thank God. That's all today, gentlemen.
I'm sorry I was late, sir. Next time I promise I'll be here bright and early.
Don't promise more than you can deliver. Just be here early. Mildred, I love teaching these kids.
We can live here in New Haven the rest of our lives. In 10 years, you'll be dean.
Most of the country is suffering through the Depression.
But our life is so happy. It's almost embarrassing.
But Back in the boom years of the 20s, I became a legal expert on bankruptcy. Now when the whole country's bankrupt, I get this letter from Washington, D.C., chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Man I've never met, one of the richest men in America, Joseph P. Kennedy.
Joe Kennedy? What does that man want?
He wants me.
I want you to do a study on how corporations use the bankruptcy laws to cheat their stockholders and the public.
I'll stay here in New Haven with the children. It is just one semester. Isn't it, Bill?
What do I do?
God damn it, don't you know? Maybe I've got the wrong man. I want you to find these bastards down on Wall Street and get them.
All right, there's only one way we can get this job done. We'll work from 9 to 6 every day. Take dinner, then come back here and work till midnight or after. 7 days a week.
We finished the report, sir. All 8 volumes.
And if I do say so, we get the bastards. And we're going to get more economic reforms through Congress than I'd ever dreamed. Because we catch the president of the New York Stock Exchange, Richard Whitney. Not just with his hand in the till, but his elbow, shoulder, and half his butt. He's embezzled over $1 million in bonds and cash from the exchange's retirement fund. I take the evidence against Richard Whitney and bring it to the Oval Office. I hand it to FDR.
No. Oh, no, not Dickie Whitney.
Dickie Whitney and FDR were classmates at Groton and Harvard. Makes you wonder, if I were the crook, would Roosevelt weep over Billy Douglas from Yakima? Well, give him credit. FDR dried his tears and Dickie Whitney went to jail. I hear they're furious at me down on the street. They don't understand. Christ, we're not trying to destroy capitalism. We're trying to save it from the capitalists.
Professor Douglas, Justice Brandeis speaking. I've been hearing about your work. Could you come to my home this Sunday? My wife will prepare us lunch. Do you like soup and boiled chicken?
I learned to love soup and boiled chicken. Louis Brandeis knows I exist.
What do you plan to do with the rest of your life, young man?
Go back to being dean at Yale.
Oh, no.
No.
No, you won't be permitted. You're a rising star in this town. Tell me, what do you think of FDR?
He's magic.
He's a magician, all right.
A hero.
Listen, Douglas, never depend on heroes. Use them. Keep your eye on the window.
Window?
Throughout history, great economic power and great political power are almost always like this. Rarely, very rarely, you find an open window. And when you find that window, move like lightning. Once in a blue moon, someone opens that window for you.
Like Joe Kennedy.
A pirate, who happens not to be in the old school Protestant inner circle.
Like FDR.
The greatest politician in America. And Napoleon.
Or you, Mr. Justice?
A Jew.
One of the greatest Supreme Court justices of all time.
Oh, my. I'm 82 years old, but I know one thing for certain. You are not going back to being dean at Yale.
Someday, March 1939, early spring in Washington, I'm at the Manor Country Club, trying to learn how to hit a golf ball. Maybe it'll help me get along better with Republicans then.
Mr. Douglas, a call from the White House. President Roosevelt.
Driving there, I'm certain he's going to ask me to run the Federal Communications Commission, which I want to do about as much as being the mayor of Vladivostok. But how do you say no to FDR?
Bill, I have a new job for you. A mean, dirty, thankless job. It's a job you won't like. It's a job you will detest. Someone you know is retiring. He's asked me to let you replace him.
Tomorrow, I'm nominating you to take the seat of Louis Brandeis on the Supreme Court.
I'm the proudest man alive. On the court for life. For life? I'm only 40. But it's a hell of a window. And if I don't take it,
Bill, you know the two things I like best about you? First, you're not afraid of a damn thing. 2 cards. You're just like my Eleanor. Both of you tell me exactly what you think, even when I'm wrong.
I'm taking 1 card. Mr. President, not many people like to be told they're wrong, especially presidents.
Then they don't belong here.
Pair of 5s. Mr. President, you said you liked something else about me.
Hey, you play a goddamn napping, but a rather interesting game of poker. Have you ever thought about getting into politics?
Sir, I think the court is enough for any man.
Some men. But for others, there's no bidding limit, is there?
Depends, Mr. President, on which cards you're dealt.
Some men manage to win on a pair of 5s.
Sir, I play cards. I don't try to read the future from them.
Very wise. After this war, though, we're going to need someone with a vision. Someone who can connect with the common man. Who can win. So how many cards do you want?
Mr. President, you're the dealer. I'll take 5. Roosevelt's running. 4th term. Party bosses happy as hogs, but they've laid down the law. Dub Henry Wallace as vice president.
Grace, take a memo. To Robert Hannigan, National Committee Chairman. Bob, I will be thoroughly delighted to lead the Democratic ticket to victory in 1944. And at my side, as Vice President, I would be happy to have William O. Douglas. Or your old man, Harry S. Truman.
My God! Roosevelt! Douglas! I've got to get a speech ready.
Mr. Hannigan, you wanted to see me.
Sweetheart, I just want you to retype this letter with these changes. Just reverse the order of those 2 names, okay?
Presto. FDR's first choice for vice president.
Truman.
Roosevelt wins. With Truman. And we're winning the war. Every day, Roosevelt looks more exhausted, frail, but no one wants to think about it. Late afternoon in April. I'm driving west on Constitution Avenue. A friend's car. He's pointing at his radio. I turn mine on. And there it is. I park my car somewhere near the Lincoln Memorial, and I walk. I walk for hours.
You could have been president.
Damn son of a bitch. Never once talked to me about Napoleon. Not once. Always the strongest, the healthiest man in any room. Damn it! Why'd he go and die on me? Alone. Again.
As a doctor, Mrs. Douglas, I must tell you the truth. Your son has contracted infantile paralysis, and he has lost the use of his legs permanently.
Permanently? That means forever. Permanently. But Mama starts giving my legs a rubbing in salt water. 15 minutes every 2 hours. Oh, Mama, that hurts.
I know it hurts, Treasure, but don't cry. You're going to walk.
And that's what she calls me, Treasure. For over a month, she sleeps in a chair next to my bed. Every 2 hours, day and night, she takes warm salt water and rubs my legs up and down for 15 minutes.
When I was a little girl, I could run like the wind. No one could catch me. And that's the way you're going to be, too.
And then she laughs and rubs my legs. Rub and rub. And for 2 hours, and 2 hours later, rub some more.
Son, when I get my strength back, I'm going to teach you how to ride a horse. They call this part of Washington Horse Heaven because of the grass. And if you ride up on a hill, you can see the Columbia River down to the south, and off in the west, Mount Adams.
It has snow on it, even in the summer. I gotta learn how to ride a horse, because I still don't walk very good, and maybe never will.
Just ignore those older boys.
Mama, let me wear long pants. Let me hide.
Oh, Treasure, that's just silly.
Don't make me go back to school.
Willie! I never want to hear you say that again.
But those guys are always laughing at me, at my legs.
Forgive them, Billy. They know not what they do. Didn't Christ teach us that?
Well, yeah, but maybe you should tell it to those guys.
I don't think any of them care to hear my sermons.
Billy, come indoors and rest now. You mustn't overdo and exert yourself.
Yes, Mama.
Billy, you have to get well, because you're going to do all the things that I can never do. Walk in places that I'll never see.
Yes, Papa.
Promise me you'll never be afraid.
I promise.
Billy,
Yes, Mama?
Billy, your father's ill. We're going to have to carry him out to the wagon.
It's all right. The doctors know now. It's my ulcers.
We're taking him to a hospital in Portland, Oregon.
And he must go under the knife.
You don't need to worry now. Doctors say he's all better.
But then... Now who's going to teach me how to ride a horse? Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. The funeral is in a big church in Yakima. We get in carriages and go up the hill to the cemetery. It's August. Everything is dusty. Dry lumps of dirt hitting the casket. I'm holding Arthur by the hand. Mama and Martha are crying. But the minister bends down to me.
You must be the man now, Billy.
I look at him, and right there over his head, way off in the east, or way off in the west, is Mount Adams. Up there it isn't hot and dusty. Up there it's all snow, clean. Nothing can make it cry or hurt or be miserable. Right then I decide, there's nothing in the world I want more to be than that mountain. That night, I dream that soldiers are throwing me and all the other weaklings off the top of Mount Adams. I wake up. Suddenly, an overwhelming light sweeps over me. I will make myself strong. Before they kill me, they'll have to catch me. I'll walk these foothills above us, first without stopping, then without a change of pace, then whistling as I go, then I'll run. I'm going to be strong. Every day through school and then through college, I walk and run till my legs and lungs are as strong as anyone's. Together, now with my brother, we hike the Cascade Mountain.
20.
40 miles.
Through Pine Forest Meadows.
Up rock walls.
Hey, do we have to climb
climb it this way?
Sure we do, come on!
I mean, there's an easier path on the other side.
Oh, Arthur Douglas, what in the Blue Hill Places is wrong with you? Take the easy path?
Maybe we wouldn't break our necks that way.
But that's the point. Why climb a mountain where you can't break your neck?
We'd get there just the same.
No, we would not. We get there like some bunch of weaklings. Now, I'm climbing this rock wall. Are you coming with me?
Lord, I guess.
Just keep looking up.
Well, I'm not looking down.
All the way up to the glaciers.
Lord, you've got blood on you.
Good.
Oh, Lord, we're almost there.
Almost.
We made it.
The top.
We did it.
I did it. I did it.
Treasure, you have a beautiful mind. Let those other boys clamber up those mountains.
I'm a better climber than any of them.
You're a teacher now. It's time to settle down.
High school English and Latin.
Treasure, you can teach at Yakima High School the rest of your life. In 10 years, you'll be principal.
Yes, Mama. I owe her so much. I love Artie and Martha and her. Oh, God, I love these Cascade Mountains. I saved up $75. I've written New York City, Columbia Law School, Mama. They've accepted me.
New York City? That's too far.
No, it isn't, Mama.
It's too far. Bill, put me down.
Listen to me, Mama. Listen. No place is too far.
Bill.
No place.
Bill, come pray with me.
I'm leaving tonight. I'm leaving tonight for Wenatchee, Washington. Martha, my sister, will take care of Mama. I'm taking a Great Northern Railroad freight train to Chicago. My ticket's free because I'm in charge of 2,000 sheep. Taking them to Chicago, the Chicago stockyards. Nobody's ever heard anything more romantic than the clackety-click of those wheels in the cool night air. My God.
It's a railroad strike, Sonny.
24 hours, we just sit. High and dry on the siding. These 2,000 sheep have to eat and drink. Every time the train stops, I have to get them on grass. North Dakota, we stopped for 2 days.
Shoot, we don't know where we're leaving.
I'm starving.
So hike down to the station lunch counter.
And that's what I do. Buy $5 worth of food, pretty big bag full, and a whole apple pie. Oh, my train! Heading east with my 2,000 sheep. Come on, make it. Oh! Oh! Oh, that beautiful food. Come on. Go east, young man, Chicago. Well, mister, here's your 2,000 sheep.
A little scrawny.
But I didn't lose a one. Now, I hitch a freight for the last leg to New York City. This time, no free passage. Some other guys are hitching rides, and we gotta pay each of the train crew 50 cents, sometimes $1.
If you don't, I'll turn you over to the yard bulls.
Aw, gee. One guy didn't have any money, and those bastards threw him right off the train. Gee, I think he broke his neck. I've got my jackknife, but now the crews are changing just about every state. Each time, I have to fork over some more money. We're going down the Hudson River Valley, the outskirts of New York.
Okay, kid, you owe me $1.
Oh, have a heart, mister. I'm broke.
So jump off or I'll run you in.
Mister, just a few more miles.
Don't! Oh.
But I'm okay. Oh, I'm a lot more than okay. For the first time in my life, I really know what a monstrous, huge country this is. And just how hard it can be. God, I love it. And there at the end of the track are the buildings of New York City. I'm filthy, skinned, and hungry. All I've got left is 6 cents. But I've put behind me now forever the weak, skinny-legged cripple I once thought I'd always be. So damn those bastards. I'm not afraid of them. I can do anything.
Time to stretch a minute.
My father, back in Washington State, conducted his first church service on a Thursday night in a one-room building. His congregation was one man. Father waited 10 minutes to see if anybody else would show up. Finally, he said, "Well, sir, there are only the two of us. Should we go ahead? Or should we maybe wait a week till the people know I'm here?" The other fellow stood up and said, "Reverend Douglas, I'm not a preacher. I'm just a cowboy. All I know is if I had 40 horses and a load of hay, and I went out to feed them but could only find one old horse, well, I don't think I'd let that horse go hungry." Father was very moved, and he said, "Thank you. You've reminded me what my life is all about." And he went on to preach a sermon that lasted an hour. Then he shook hands with the man and asked him what he thought. The man said, "Reverend Douglas, I'm not a preacher. I'm just a cowboy. But if I had 40 horses to feed, and when I went out looking for them with a load of hay, I found only one old horse, I don't think I'd give him the whole wagon load." Maybe I'm giving you too much of a wagon load, but I can't help that. It all comes together. I'm a preacher, like my father, like Louis Brandeis. See, they both preached sermons about the real problems of life. I guess my father was the only preacher in town who did. The only one who cared about the itinerant workers. Some were Wadleys, industrial workers of the world.
We mustn't let our children be contaminated by this human scum.
That's what the other ministers in town said. But Father was right. Those people weren't scum. I know, because after he died, I had to work right alongside those people. One day, I was around 15, I picked 400 pounds of black cherries.
Okay, kid, here's your pay.
$4. If I'd bruised the fruit, I wouldn't have gotten a dime. No minimum wage in those days.
Damn sure no unions.
Saw the sheriff meet a union organizer at the railroad station and drag him out of town on a motorcycle.
We run things in this town because we know what's good for you.
Treasure, that's why God puts them on top.
That's what Mama thought, bless her. Well, we weren't on the bottom. That level belonged to the Yakima Indians. But we Douglases, we sure weren't on the top. Wrong side of the tracks. Too poor to have birthday parties. Too poor to be invited to anyone else's.
Jasper Crispa, Jasper. Cleaning up the town.
No!
Making Yakima safe for my sons. I'll give you $1 an hour.
No! $1 an hour?
We never had any money, but we were never poor. We're Douglases. We excel.
Or else. In my high school, I was valedictorian. Man loves God best by serving man. Earned a full tuition scholarship of $100 a semester to Whitman College in Walla Walla. I'll never forget one professor, Dr. Benjamin H. Brown. He taught physics and geology and the cosmic view of life. Over in Europe, the World War had begun.
Millions of young men are being killed. But whatever men will do, the earth will still grow wildflowers. The Alps and the Cascades will still stand. Look at this. A human skull. I found it while I was digging around an apple tree. The roots had grown in through the eyes, sucking the entire grain into the tree. Think of it. Whoever's brain this was is now an apple tree.
None of us could think of an afterlife more choice. Summer of 1918, doing close order drill. Left, right. Private Douglas.
Fighting for democracy.
Then the news.
The armistice.
Damn! All right, you man. None of you have gotten any closer to the goddamn phrase than the goddamn Spokane. But get into your goddamn uniforms and you're gonna walk parade right down the middle of goddamn Walla Walla.
The crowd's euphoric. It's like a beautiful dream. Men throwing their hats in the air. Women rushing into the street to embrace us. We're heroes. After the parade, I strut around town in my uniform. Then, as I start into a drugstore, I bump into Logan Wheeler's girlfriend. I'd known Logan for years. He'd worked at his father's creamery. Then he got shipped to France and was killed in the Argonne forest. I can't remember her name. Ruby.
Big hero in his uniform.
Hero. Yeah. There's a guy named William Bora, a senator from Idaho, who heard a Negro was going to be lynched by a mob outside of Boise. He hired a locomotive to take him there and shamed that mob into letting the law take its course. That's who I want to be like. Then one day, a train passes through town, filled with men the government's arrested. Wobblies. 30 or 40 men in each car. No food or water or toilets. Just sealed boxcars. A man who takes no interest in public life isn't harmless. He's useless.
An idea that ain't dangerous ain't worthy of being called an idea at all.
What?
Where you headed, kid?
Chicago. I'm taking all these sheep to the stockyards. Where are you heading?
Detroit. I'm an organizer.
Union?
IWW.
Yeah,
Ever met a Wobbly before?
sure.
That right. What makes a kid like you leave the Cascade Mountains for a junkyard like Chicago?
Oh, not staying in Chicago. Going on to New York City.
Ain't sure that's much of a real step upward.
I'm going to Columbia University. To the law school.
The law school. Now, don't that take the blue ribbon?
Think I'm lying?
Nah, kid, I don't think you're lying. I'm just a little tickled. Now, life always throws you a fast one. See, here we are, all cozy and brain-like, riding the freight together. But someday, maybe we'll meet again. Me, still an organizer, and you a lawyer boy.
Yeah.
And you know what'll happen.
What?
You'll do your job. Lock me away in Joliet prison.
Nah, that isn't.
Ah, now come on, kid. Admit it. Now don't that take the blue ribbon.
An idea that ain't dangerous ain't worthy of being called an idea at all. And the same thing is true of a life. Teaching at Yakima, I was safe. And I wanted to be dangerous. If I'd known then what I know now, no group worships safety more than lawyers, and the safest place of all is right here. The Supreme Court,
Minersville School District, Francisco Bites.
1940. Fascism is on the march everywhere and winning. That's when we get this case about 2 Pennsylvania school children, 10 and 12 years old.
For Jehovah's Witnesses were forbidden to salute the American flag. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to any graven image.
The court has to choose religious freedom or the right of the state to demand respect for the flag. 8 of the 9 members of the court, including all of us Roosevelt appointees, we decide in favor of the state. Our flag is the symbol of our national unity, our national security. The only dissent is a Coolidge Republican, the man who was my dean at law school, old Harlan Stone.
The government cannot force these children to express a sentiment which violates their deepest religious convictions. The Constitution is a command that freedom of mind and spirit must be preserved. It is a command which government must obey.
Hugo Black and I, we aren't looking at each other. Can we have been that wrong? Where are the immutable principles of law that I thought were chiseled in granite? I asked the oldest member of the court, Charles Evans Hughes, nearly 80. Sir, since I joined the court last year, you've been like a father to me.
Douglas, the safe and easy cases get settled in lower courts. Up here, at the constitutional level, we get only the dangerous ones, where 90% of any decision is emotional, and the rational part of us merely supplies the reasons for supporting our gut feelings.
I feel the earth move under me.
Bill, it's Martha.
Martha, I've just been thinking. I'm so busy, but I just have to write you and Mama.
Bill, you have to come home.
Of course I'll come.
Julia Fisk Douglas, 1872 to 1941.
President Roosevelt sent a wreath of red roses. Mother would have found that hard to believe. She'd been a lifelong Republican. But she came to Washington to see me sworn into the court. And at a luncheon that day, she suddenly turned to me.
You know, this man Roosevelt has got something to him after all.
They buried her next to Father. In that cemetery I'd avoided for 40 years. It's green now with tall trees blotting out Mount Adams. The night I caught that sheep train headed east, she said goodbye.
You're as smart as your father. Maybe as good. But you'll never be as handsome.
She had high standards. Mama. FDR has just lost his mother. We both know something about strong mothers. More and more talk about me running with him on the ticket in 44.
So you want to leave the court?
No, but a president has the power to do the things that need doing.
And your marriage?
Oh, that's what the magazines want. House and Garden and Ladies' Home Journal.
Dad, can I talk to you?
No, Bumble. There's a magazine reporter here to photograph us. You got color film in that camera? Mildred, you stand next to the kids. Bet you never saw a Supreme Court justice with a Stetson on, huh? Mildred, Millie slip short. Bumble, go out for a long one. No! Good thing that boy is probably going to be a lawyer. Huh, Mildred? Come on. Give us a kiss. Children.
Perfect American family.
A lie. And it takes time away.
Think he's running?
You watch, you'll be on the TV.
No. I don't have any time for anything but the court.
A Jap's a Jap. They're a dangerous element, loyal or not.
That's testimony by the general of our Western Defense Command.
The case has come to us.
My name is Gordon Hirabayashi. I was born in Seattle on April 23rd, 1918. I'm a Quaker, a member of the YMCA, and a senior at the University of Washington.
The Army has sentenced you for refusing to report to your relocation camp.
Concentration camp with barbed wire. My parents are there now. They used to have a roadside vegetable and fruit stand south of Seattle.
You can't trust them. They're born that way.
This order for the mass detention of all persons of Japanese descent denies America's democratic standards. Therefore, I must refuse this order for evacuation.
You represent a military threat to America. The Army and the Justice Department say so.
The ACLU has refused to take my case.
Everyone has turned his back on it. Westbrook Pegler,
The California Japanese should be under armed guard to the last man and woman. And the hell with habeas corpus.
even Walter Lippmann.
The West Coast is a battlefield, and the Constitution doesn't give our enemies the right to live and do business on a battlefield.
I know what the public wants.
If you want to be vice president,
You can't let that affect me. And I don't want to be vice president.
you know what to do.
What I'm saying is, you have to believe our military. This is war, declared by Congress.
Then why aren't you filling these camps with German Americans, Italian Americans?
It's war, the rape of Manchuria, Pearl Harbor, the Bataan Death March. We, the court, decides.
You join the decision.
I, the court. We send the young man to prison. Roosevelt's won his fourth term, but Harry S. Truman,
Not you.
no.
Dear Mr. Justice Douglas,
Bumble? Why are you writing me a letter, Bumble?
I'm writing you a letter because you never listen to me when I talk to you.
That's silliness. Of course I listen.
You never listen when I talk to, or try to talk about anything important. This letter is about something important. It's not about the world, or the nation, or even the law. It's only about me. Mr. Justice, I have decided not to go to law school.
Billy.
I've decided not to go to law school because I hate the law. To me, the law is everything that's wrong with the world. The law is taking you away from me, from Millie, and from Mother. And if you'll forgive me, it's taken my father away from himself. It's taken him into a world of compromise and politics. So please accept the fact I am not going to law school. Instead, I have decided to be utterly and ridiculously irresponsible. I'm going to try to be an actor. And if, Mr. Justice, that embarrasses you, I'm not sorry. Because that only proves that you've forgotten the father that once took us on a long, wonderful train trip out west. One whole week we spent, just us. No phone calls or reporters. No law. We played Jim Rummy together, and you told us stories and played us cowboy songs on your harmonica. And I was happy and truly your son, William O. Douglas, Jr.
A letter to William O. Douglas, Jr. I haven't got time. And you're wrong about the law. And wrong about me. You'll see. A letter. American Bar Association. We're the most powerful nation in history, yet we live in fear. terrified of a few thousand members of the American Communist Party, a ragtag group who couldn't elect a county dog catcher from the Atlantic to the Pacific coast.
You're defending communists?
Dennis versus the Court of the United States.
Yes, before us are 11 leaders of the American Communist Party. Why?
Because they're communists.
But Truman's Justice Department hasn't charged them with sabotage or terror or sedition, not even of conspiracy to overthrow our government, only with teaching the writings of Marx, Lenin, and Stalin. Can the court say, send them to jail? Can we set aside the First Amendment?
Because of a clear and present danger, we mustn't jeopardize the court. We mustn't get embroiled in the passions of the day.
You know what that makes us. Like those bankers who will give you a loan only when you don't need one. Sure, we'll give you justice if you don't need it very much.
People get justice from God. From the court, we get the law.
But this time we can give them both. We only got this case because every lawyer and judge in America is scared shitless of being branded a commie. Hugo Black and I guess our necks are on the block because we dissent. But the court does the safe thing. Send those men to jail. We need courage now because the problem isn't accusing innocent people of being communists. The problem is stripping constitutional rights away from any American, including communists. There's a questionnaire being given to government employees.
Do you have any records of music by Prokofiev?
Any prince by Picasso.
Do you think blood plasma of Negroes should be mixed with that of whites?
Should the French get out of Vietnam?
Would you vote for Justice William O. Douglas if he ran for president on the Communist Party ticket?
We're a fast-moving people. But has anyone moved faster than I have in 1 year? From Father of the Year in the Ladies' Home Journal to Communist Conspirator?
Communist spy!
All right! I'll give you 10 minutes. I've heard all the other lawyers, but it won't do any good. You know what I think? I think Julius and Ethel Rosenberg are guilty as hell. I think they were communists and spies and conspired to pass along secrets of the atomic bomb to the Soviets.
We agree.
You agree? Then what are we...
They shouldn't be executed.
Well, tomorrow they go to the electric chair. Unless you've got new
A
evidence.
point of constitutional law.
I see. Fascinating. Fascinating. The Rosenbergs were convicted and sentenced to death by a judge. Yet the law says, for the crimes they committed, that only a jury can assign a death penalty. That didn't happen here.
Why didn't the Rosenbergs' own lawyers make that argument in appeal?
I think Stalin wants the Rosenbergs to die in the electric chair. I think he wants martyrs to the noble cause. The hell with that. Today, I've issued a stay of execution. Let the whole court consider the point this coming October. I'm heading west for the summer.
Supreme Court Chief Justice Vincent has overturned William Douglas's stay of execution for traitors Julius and Ethel Rosenberg.
Vincent, you can't do that. It's never been done. Oh, I know the traitors have to die now, and the hell with legal niceties. It's a fever in the land. But we don't have to catch it ourselves. We have to cure it. Well, I dissent from this decision. Our country must be protected against spies who would destroy us. But before we allow human lives to be snuffed out, we must be sure, emphatically sure, that we act within the law. No man or woman should go to death under an unlawful sentence merely because his lawyer failed to raise the point. Hugo Black and Felix Frankfurter join in my dissent. Eisenhower is silent. That evening, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg are electrocuted. And I'm dropped from the social register. A resolution is introduced in Congress to impeach me. I've given aid and comfort to the communists. A traitor. When I meet old friends in the street. Lyndon. Time to get out of Washington. I spend the next 10 days with a fellow named Harry Truman. Not the present Harry S., just plain old Harry. A thoroughly disreputable mountain goat who runs a lodge up in the foothills of Mount St. Helens. Not more than 40 miles west of Mount Adams. Together we climb up St. Helens, and God, it is beautiful. Wildflowers everywhere. The one I love the most, all alone. Above the timberline, right up against the snowdrifts, the avalanche lily. Clear white with a core of deep orange. That one you can't transplant. It's allergic to gardens and all such comfortable places. It wants a raw wind and icy water. It thrives on them. Harry, how does it feel to live your life on a volcano?
Bill, you know the answer to that better than I do. Hell, compared to that Washington, D.C. place, this bold, plain old mountain's plenty solid enough for me.
Well, at least it is today.
Well, if it wants to after I'm gone, this whole damn 1,000 acres can blow itself to the moon for all I care.
But I don't know about that. If you love all this, like I do, how can you not care what will happen to it tomorrow? I always think of something said 100 years ago by Chief Seattle of the Cascade Tribes. He wrote a letter to President Franklin Pierce.
If all the beasts were gone, men would die from great loneliness of spirit. For whatever happens to the beast, happens to man. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth, befalls the sons and daughters of the earth.
Bill, the problem is them Wall Street fellas.
A Soviet chemical factory will poison a lake just as fast as one of ours will. And a Brazilian bulldozer flattens a forest just as eternally. No, the problem is man. The kind of man who looks at a river and sees a dam. Who looks at a tree and sees lumber. Who looks at a mountain and sees gravel.
Well, then we're shit out of luck.
No. We make a mess, we clean it up. What we need is another Bill of Rights. One that gets standing in court for our natural resources.
There you go again, Douglas, riding one of your hobby horses and turning the law upside down.
Upside down? You think that hasn't already happened for the almighty dollar? Look at the 14th Amendment, created to protect the black man and woman, to make them first-class citizens. And what did the court do after Reconstruction? Turned the law ass up in the air, suddenly decided that corporations were people. Used the 14th Amendment to stop any attempt to regulate the factories and the railroads. By God, if a corporation can be a person, then why in hell can't our trees and rivers have their day in court? A wilderness Bill of Rights. That's what we need. And our grandchildren need it. And the planet needs it. Christ, imagine, what if we end up with nothing on earth but people?
Well, I was wrong. That man hates humanity in general, too.
I go back to the Capitol, and what do I find? All the powers that be, including the Washington Post, cheerful as hell about destroying the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal. It doesn't make a profit, so the establishments decided to pave it over and make another highway. To the editors, Washington Post, the C&O Canal stretches 185 miles from D.C. all the way to Cumberland, Maryland. John Quincy Adams broke the ground for it. Maybe it isn't wilderness, but it's green. And generations of locals have walked alongside its muddy waters. I therefore challenge all of you to a hike, 185 miles from Cumberland to this smog-choked city. By Jesus, they accept, and off we go. Every community we pass through sends a delegation out to meet us. Here come trucks full of radio and TV crews. You know, that's pitiful. These days it's become news when somebody actually walks somewhere. We make it back to town, and the Post changes its editorial mind. Now, some people are calling for the canal to be turned into a national park.
Time to unpack.
I built a home in the foothills of Mount Rainier. I'm planting clover on the hillside, and something powerfully strange happens to me. Off in the distance, I hear the baying of hounds. Something brushes my leg. It's a deer, a doe, exhausted, panting, her eyes dilated, incredible, but desperate with nowhere else to turn for help. She's come to a human. The hounds are sounding closer. You come with me. I walk a half a mile with her at my heels, like a puppy. Then we reach the river and I give her a pat on the rump. She dives in and swims to the other side. In a minute, the hounds arrive at the edge of the river, furious. Their quarry has escaped, has been delivered over into freedom. Whatever happens to the beast happens to man. All things are connected.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot.
Beast and man. A century ago, 1 in every 8 Americans was legally considered a beast, a slave, to be bought, sold, and disposed of at the whim of its master. To end that scourge, a dreadful war was fought.
Segregation is constitutional. We're separate, but we're equal.
Plessy Ferguson, 1896, that slimy piece of hypocrisy, that dirty bargain to cancel the outcome of the Civil War.
Brown versus Board of Education.
A perfect case. With Earl Warren as Chief Justice, we finally have a majority. 5 of us are now opposed to segregation.
But this is a momentous decision. We have to be unanimous.
That's where Warren makes the difference. Former Republican governor and attorney general, a tough criminal prosecutor. One by one, the others join us. Warren announces a unanimous decision. May 17, 1954. The day we finally begin to keep some promises.
Segregation is wrong, stupid, unconstitutional, and it's time to stop
Impeach Earl Warren.
Communities, whole states dig in their heels, resist the law of the land. One man alone could prevent that. The most popular man in America, President Dwight David Eisenhower.
it. But I'd send the troops into Little Rock.
That was to stop a riot, not to stop segregation. Ike never says one word to support the court's decision. He walks away from us. 10 years of potential progress down the drain. And all that is the paralysis of fear. Fear of what the black man and woman might do with their full share of American freedom. Booker T. Washington said it a long time ago.
You can't keep a man down unless you stay down with him.
Wherever you find a persistent sense of futility, particularly among the young men, with nothing really to gain from doing right and nothing really to lose from doing wrong, that is where you are going to find violence. When are we as a nation going to wake up to that fact? When?
When are you going to wake up and see the real dangers that we face?
The State Department is trying to deport a man, a homosexual.
Like all those persons, he's a psychopathic personality.
That's what they call it. The State Department and the court. Over my dissent, let the bastards deport that man who'd come to us for justice. Psychopathic personality, communist, Bolshevik, names, labels, fear. The first homosexual I ever knew I met 60 years ago in college back in Washington State. I liked that fellow, a good sense of humor, good friend. I suppose if I'd been asked to name the 10 men I most admired, he would have been on the list. But one day he touched my hand and said, "I love you." Could have said, I should have said, "That's fine," and to change the subject. But what did I know? I was an ignorant fool in a different world. What I did was push him away and walk out. Never spoke to him again. Avoided him. Fear. Fear. And now we've got a president who's built his entire career on peddling fear.
Congress shall have the power to declare war.
That's the Constitution. But for years now, Richard Nixon has been secretly bombing Cambodia. We're not in fear with that country, yet he hasn't informed the American public, the Congress, or even many of the responsible leaders of the Pentagon, sending those men false military reports.
National security. Executive privilege.
But the Cambodians know you're bombing them. The Chinese, the Soviets, all know. You're only lying to the American people.
They're like children. They don't want to know the truth. And we have to keep the commies guessing. Let them worry, you know? But maybe I am insane. Capable of anything. Let the mothers tell their children, "Hush, or Richard Nixon will get you."
And he laughed. I am reinstating a lower court order, stopping this unconstitutional bombing. The law of the land applies equally to this court, to the residents of the ghetto, and to the big White House on the hill. Every single other member of the court votes to reverse my order.
Douglas is paranoid.
Senile.
Degenerate.
I get a tape recording in the mail. Martin Luther King in the bedroom.
Now what do you think of your preacher?
I'm convinced the White House is electronically bugging our conference room in the Supreme Court.
No American president would do such a thing.
No,
Laird versus Tatum.
we hear the case. Our presidents have used the U.S. Army to snoop on Americans, on people working for civil rights and against the war. I find against the government. This is a cancer in our body politic. If we allow an intelligence officer to snoop over the shoulder of every nonconformist, this is no longer the America of Jefferson, but the Russia of Stalin. But the court backs Nixon 5-4. The fifth vote is his latest appointee, young man named William Rehnquist. My God, Hugo Black is gone. Now Earl Warren is dying in Georgetown Hospital. I've got one hope, that Nixon will overreach. I remember a day in the Himalayas, 16,000 feet altitude.
Move slowly, Bill. You gotta get used to these heights.
Those rules were made for other men, not me. I feel like Superman. I took one more step and passed out for an hour.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's happened.
The United States versus Richard Nixon.
July 6th, 1974. The Supreme Court rules unanimously, William Rehnquist abstaining, that Richard Nixon must obey the law, that he must give the tapes to the special prosecutor. In less than a month, he's resigned. This is a special Christmas, everybody. Everybody on my staff gets an extra long holiday. We deserve it. Kathy, I've got the tickets. Tonight, you and I are going down to Nassau.
No, we're not, Bill.
No, we're not.
My school important test on Monday, something called constitutional law.
But...
Oh, I'm sorry, but you're just gonna have to change the tickets to Tuesday.
All right. What a girl.
Hey,
Oh, right. Oh, woman. Kathy, why do you put up with an old goat like me?
Bill, at every party we go to, at least one attentive young man asks me that same question.
They do?
And I'll tell you what I say to them. That the men I most like are either under the age of 5 or over the age of 60. Those are about the only times in a man's life when he actually listens to a woman.
Sorry. What did you say? Don't think I've ever seen water so beautiful. Darling, you know what things are like New Year's Eve. Please go downstairs and see about our dinner reservation.
Of course, you stay here. Time to unpack.
Where did I put my razor, kids? Ah, here it is. Kathy? Kathy? A stroke. All right. Stroke. But I'll be back on court. Gone through. Worse, this. But no psycho, logic, exam. No. No. I can read. Can write. I'm staying. The court. Counsel. My question to you . My question to you,
Sir,
thank you for your spirit, your spirited argument. All of you, all of my friends, betray me. Tell me quit. Be coward. Resign. To Gerald Ford. Be nothing. The court, that's my life. A public life. Even if only half man. I can cast a vote. The 5th vote out of 9, and that vote can open the windows or close them for all your lifetime. Someone has to stand up for the fruit pickers.
we got Douglas off the court. 36 years. But we got him.
Seek hope. The poem.
got Douglas off the court.
They want harmony.
Everyone wants harmony, sir.
The mistake. Hitler. Stalin. Harmony.
We all want law and order.
But not through harmony. Not everybody. Everybody the same. No.
Disharmony, sir?
Oh, like my life.
4 wives, 2 of them young enough to be granddaughters. Why don't you write a book? Douglas Tells All.
All my private life.
Human interest.
Gossip.
The dirt.
Like case. Case.
Sir?
The case. Irvine.
Irvine versus California.
February. Yes. Yes, February 1954.
Police wanted evidence against Mr. Irvine. They made a key to his home, bored a hole in his roof.
Put a microphone in the bedroom where he slept with his wife. Arrested him. Ransacked his home without a search warrant.
The Supreme Court found that his rights had not been violated.
Over my dissent. Constitutional liberty must include privacy. The right to be left alone is the beginning of all freedom. Case.
Griswold.
Griswold, State of Connecticut, 1965. Still a crime for a married couple to use birth control devices. A majority of the court now agrees with me. I write the opinion.
We deal with the right to privacy.
Yes, yes, older than the Bill of Rights. Older than our political parties. Older than our school system. Marriage is coming together for better or worse. Hopefully enduring and intimate to the degree of being sacred.
Bill, why are you leaving me?
Mercy.
You're destroying all we had together. Why are you leaving me for that child? We could be together the rest of our lives. You're on the court for the rest of your life.
No. I have to keep climbing.
Bill, I don't like what's happening. But I'm a grown-up. I can live with it. Why a divorce?
Because I love her.
You love her? Oh, poor Bill. You're really an old-fashioned boy, aren't you?
You don't understand?
You don't have to marry this girl.
She's not this girl. Her name is Joan. She's a fine, educated woman. She's helping me with my research, my
And
books.
she thinks you're the greatest man alive. I love you, Bill. If you have to be worshipped, don't you have your law clerks for that?
Maybe you're a great justice, but you're a pretty ridiculous old man.
Oh, shut up.
A foolish old man chasing after young flesh.
No! With Joni, maybe. Yes. Not with Catherine.
Chasing after a dream of youth.
Hi, what can I get you?
I think I'd like a smile. No, nice smile, but not what I meant. A smile is a glass of your best scotch in the house. Bring yourself one, too. Sit down. Talk with me. Kathy, is it?
I'm putting myself through college, waiting on tables, not exactly at Fulbright, but we'll serve.
Not one of those rich little bitches in a private school.
My father's a railroad worker.
Here in Oregon?
But I want to travel, see new places, new people.
Don't I know it? How old are you?
23.
Same age I caught a train headed east. Sweet girl. Smart as a whip. Oh, she can run like the wind. Damn.
I
Sometimes.
know it hurts, treasure.
Kathy?
Who is Kathy?
I don't know, Mama.
No other woman in your life will ever call you treasure.
I know.
You must keep yourself clean and pure.
Just like Jasper Crispin.
I don't want to think about him.
You've never stopped thinking about me.
Bastard! High and mighty church deacon.
Protecting my sons, cleaning up Yakima.
Hypocrite!
I just want to close down South Front Street. The bootleggers and the women. Saturday and Sunday nights, I'll give you $1 an hour.
I was 15, more money than I'd ever seen in my life.
See if you can get one of those women to solicit you.
Aren't you the cute kid?
Sell you some white mule. Then you swear on an affidavit, and the police will move in.
I know why you did it, you little bastard.
I'm going to make this town safe for my sons.
Saving yourself for Jesus.
Good work, Bill.
No! No more, I quit!
But you kept the money, didn't you?
Hypocrite! You're all alike. Hypocrites. That young man, Gordon Hirabayashi, I sent him to prison. Bill, so glad you didn't become a lawyer. I respect you more than any man I ever knew. I must tell you that someday. I've got a jackknife for you. Somewhere. And I'll play you cowboy songs on my harmonica. Take the time. Before all the young men die, before all the wild flowers die, I can do anything. All those years, all that work, but nothing. Nothing. Everything falling backwards, down the hill. Maybe I should just have been an old man, sitting in the sun, beating a cane against the wall in time to the bells, waiting to become an apple tree.
Douglas, your mountain climbing days are over.
No! Thou shalt not ration justice. 36 years on the court. I held the Constitution in my hands. But who's going to hold it tomorrow? Some goddamn eunuch? Bought and paid for by the damn corporations? You're going to let him destroy the Constitution? Invade your mind? Invade your bedroom? Dictate how many children you have? Just because he looks like a nice family man on television? Ask yourself, do you think it really matters what Alexander Hamilton did in bed? Whether James Madison was happily married? It mattered to them, to their intimates. But to us they gave a constitutional nation. Isn't that enough? Damn it. Do you have any idea what leadership means? Climbing a mountain every day, every hour. And if you're truly out front, alone, then you are the mountain you're climbing. Discovering yourself as you find the path, inch by inch. And no hero can do it for you, because the fight is never won, but lost and won over and over again by you. Listen. Hike up the Allagash River in Maine. Smell the sweet grass. Iroquois. Sacred grass. You walk in acres of it, and the whole world smells of vanilla. Yet, take a handful of it to your nose, and the smell is gone. Nothing. You need endless fields of it, next to free running water. That's why we need wilderness. Wilderness in the world around us. Wilderness in the world inside us. Inside every man and woman. there's a wilderness, unique and sacred. Pave it over, chop it down, and we all die.